Hey guys, insight number 5, last one of the week here. This is Acts 20. This is Paul giving his final farewell to the people he's been teaching and telling them that he kept nothing back. He gave it everything he had. So continuing to preach, you read here in the first part of it, continuing to preach in the days of unleavened bread. So there's that in a place called Troas, and they break the bread together, so they do that. And then he starts to preach, and there were many lights in the upper chamber, and they're all gathered. So there's a whole lot of people around. And you read in verse 9, there sat in a window a certain young man named Eutychus. Greek name's not so good with the Greek. A certain young man named Eutychus, being fallen into a deep sleep, and as Paul was long preaching, so he was giving a long sermon, a long farewell talk, he sunk down with sleep and fell down from the third loft and was taken up dead. So he fell from quite a way up. And Paul went down, so stops preaching. Paul went down and fell on him, embracing him, said, "Trouble not yourselves, for his life is in him." I can bring him back. When he therefore was come up again and had broken bread and eaten and talked a long while, even till break of day, so he departed. So, and it says, and they brought the young man alive and were not a little comforted, as in they were a lot comforted. It sounds a really weird way to put the English, and they were not a little comforted. To us now it would mean that they weren't comforted at all. What it's saying there is that they weren't a little comforted, they were a whole lot comforted. So he gives everything he had, and then he goes off to a ship and sails over to another place and says goodbye to them, where he tells them that he served the Lord with humility. This is verse 19. With many tears, the temptations that came, and the lying in wait from the Jews, and how he kept nothing back, and he taught you publicly from house to house. And he tells them, "I'm going back to Jerusalem, because that's where I need to go back to and report from all this missionary work." And verse 24, he mentions that I might finish my course with joy, and I think that's a lovely line. And then at the very end there, before he gets onto the ship, 36, and when he had thus spoken, he kneeled down and prayed with them all. So he gives them this one last prayer before he departs. And they all wept sore and fell on Paul's neck and kissed him, sorrowing most of all for the words which he spake, that they should see his face no more, and they accompanied him onto the ship. So they knew that pretty much he's not going to be seen again. Now in 21, you read there that as soon as the ship sailed pretty much and he arrives, he gets arrested and persecuted, and it's just goes through that, and how he gets back to Jerusalem and ends up bound, not bound, a prisoner, not prisoner, and he says, "I'm a Roman, you can't do this to me." It's just interesting. I'm a citizen of no mean city, and anyway, he gets there, speaks to the Hebrew tongue, and then when we pick up next week in 22 is him speaking in Hebrew. But it shows that he's accorded more privileges because he is a citizen of Rome. Again, as we already spoke about, giving him more privilege to go and do what he's actually doing, which again really illustrates to us that the Lord calls who is needed at the time to be able to go to the places that he did. And the only reason that he could do all of that and travel freely is because he was a Roman citizen. It wouldn't have worked for someone else. It had to be a Roman citizen. So again, it's all there. But yeah, keeping nothing back. This is what we learn from Paul. So continuing to travel and preach, Paul gives this long sermon in Troas. Excuse me. And so long that young man named Eutychus falls and dies. But Paul raises him from the dead, they eat, and he moves on. It's a beautiful miracle there. I mean, who hasn't fallen asleep in church, right? A lot of people. And fallen off the seat. I've fallen forward and whacked my head. It hurt. And it was just not a good day. But I think, sometimes if we sit right at the back, we could fall off the seat completely. And I've seen kids do that. They've been lying on the seat and they've rolled over and onto the floor, and then they're suddenly crying because they're scared, they don't know where they are. So it happens. It's okay, it happens. Doesn't mean that Paul's talk was boring or that anyone was. It's just that you get tired, and it's usually quite a comfortable place to be. You know the people around you, and off you go to sleep. But he does raise him from the dead, and he does do that. And then he moves on to continue saying goodbye to this area that he had been preaching in. So at the end of his mission of Paul's, he calls the church elders in that area together and gives reports saying he kept nothing back, serving the Lord with all humility. verse 24, he hopes to finish his course with joy, no matter what that might be or how that's going to look. And I would like to say the same thing. I would like to finish my course with joy. I have no idea what that's going to look like or where that's going to be, whether it's in Hamilton, whether it's somewhere else. I don't know when that's going to come. But I would like it to be a moment of, yeah, I've had joy and I'm happy. I would like it to be a positive thing when I finish my course. But before getting on the boat, he gets a loving farewell. So much like us, when we finish whatever the Lord has called us to do, we finish that portion of our life with a report and moving forward. So if it's a mission, if it's being a Relief Society president, a primary president, or even just a teacher, you go and talk to the bishop and you say, okay, this is what I've done. Here's my little report. This is the class I had. There's usually something in there where you would give a report and you would move forward to the next thing. So how do you want to be remembered by those you serve? Because that's the ultimate question, keeping nothing back. How do you want to be remembered by the people you serve? Do you want them pleading for you not to go? We don't want to lose you. We love you. Stay with us. We might not see you again, because that can happen. If you serve overseas, you might not see them again. I've got the privilege in September to go and visit my friend Katie again. I've been over there once. I get to go again. She's been over here a couple of times. But there's a likelihood that it could be years, maybe never again, that we would see each other face to face. That's a very real possibility, and I would hope that it's not. I would hope she comes back again, and maybe one day I'll get to go somewhere with her somewhere else. I don't know. But the reality of today's world is that when you have friends that live so far away, and for them in those days that was the same kind of journey, like New Zealand to Europe, for say, for them it was that same kind of space and time. It was likely that we're not going to see you again, and we really want to. So how do you want to be remembered for how you served, in whatever capacity that was? As nursery leader, as state president, as Area 70, as 70 is the area president. I've just got a new one. Elder Natchez has gone back to Utah. I hope to catch up with him when I'm over there. He's a cool dude, man. He's really awesome. And now we've got Elder Mewers, who also gave a really good talk at conference. So really grateful to have him around. But how does he want to be remembered? What is his time going to bring? We're about to get a new temple president. How are we going to remember our one we've got now, and how are we going to remember the new one? These are things like, how do you want to be remembered for how you served? And what is your desire as you move forward? Because that's what Paul talks about. My desire is to, finish that course with joy. My desire is to be able to find other people and help them. So what is your desire as you move forward to the next thing in your life? That's really what this is teaching us. It's a wonderful account of what Paul did, but it teaches us that he goes on to more persecution, he goes on to more difficulties, he goes on to having to defend himself yet again before he can find just a moment of peace, before he yet goes off on another mission, which is what we'll keep covering as we go through Acts. Is basically we're now in the movie of Paul's life, so there's more to come for him, and with some really rough days ahead. So the fact that he says here that he would really want to be finishing it in joy, and that he's got good intentions moving forward, it keeps him solid for what's going to come, keeps him focused for what's coming. So it's really good to learn from, and it's something that we could really embrace in our lives too. With that, it helps us with that service at a time. Do we want to be remembered as the leader that never showed up? Do we want to be remembered as the leader that got angry at everybody? Or do we want to be remembered as the leader who loved people like Jesus did? That would be really cool. That's what I would like. I would like to be remembered for the teacher that told people that Jesus loved them, and that I love them too, like that. And my desire as I move forward, do whatever the Lord needs me to do, and do it with joy, hopefully. Pray that I can. Who knows, right? We don't know. So have some think about that. Some good stuff to learn this week about how to be a missionary, how to teach, how to serve, whatever capacity that is. It doesn't mean you have to serve a proselyting mission or even a service mission. There's all sorts of ways you can serve. And this really does play into some of those core values and ethics. Teach Christ. Everything else will follow. Keep nothing back. Do it with joy, and don't worry about the persecution that's coming, because Christ is with you. And whether you die by the sword like we've seen, or get stoned, or you continue on and have a long life and continue to preach, whatever is going to be there, it's okay, and you will be looked after. So there's some really good things, and we don't get that today, but we get some different kind of things, challenges that we face. So No matter what the challenges are, the Lord is with us. We can do this. It might be scary and it might be daunting, but we can do it. So take some faith in that. There's a lot to learn from these chapters. There's so much in them. So don't be overwhelmed, even if you just pick one and just have a look at that. But the Come Follow Me manual had some really great little study tips in there, sort of encompassing the whole week's reading. So have a look at that as well. And that's what I've tried to really pull out here. So I hope you got something from it, and have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. I love you guys, and I will catch you next week with more of Acts and more of Paul. See you guys.